There is an emergency unfolding in the spirit realm, and time is collapsing faster than anyone realizes. That's why I'm coming to you first, because what I planted in you before you even had a name carries a power that cannot be duplicated or transferred. And that's why the weight on your shoulders has felt unbearable, because you were never designed to blend in. You were crafted to break what has never been broken, and while others were looking for confirmation from crowds, I was isolating you so that you wouldn't be infected by what dilutes the original, because if you knew just how rare the blueprint of your soul is, you'd never again compare yourself to anyone else. And I need you to wake up to the truth that you're not merely gifted, you are chosen. And the assignment attached to your name is so severe that hell has been launching wars against you since your first breath, not because you're weak, but because even your silence carries divine thunder, and I've hidden solutions in your spirit that were never meant to be discovered by committees or found in books, because what I entrusted to you is voice activated by obedience, not applause, and this is why you felt the pressure increase, because I'm breaking the shell around your identity so the oil I buried within you can finally pour without restriction. And I must warn you, you are on the edge of a now or never decision, because the moment you take full ownership of your anointing, the atmosphere will shift permanently, not only for you, but for those who have been unknowingly tied to your breakthrough. And no, you're not unqualified. I've already accounted for every flaw and every failure, and still I said, it must be you. Because heaven needs a weapon that doesn't wait for perfect timing but strikes when I say move. And that's why I've come to shake you with urgency. The hour is too late for hesitation, and you must understand that what I stored in you is the answer to a cry rising from places you've never seen, faces you've never met, and wounds you didn't cause but will be required to heal. And this is not a suggestion. This is a holy summons, because I am igniting what religion ignored and reactivating what trauma tried to silence. And though you feel unprepared, you're already equipped, because I trained you in the dark while others were being celebrated in the light. And now, I'm pulling you into visibility not for fame but for assignment, not for ego but for divine eruption, because what I placed in you carries the texture of glory and the sound of deliverance. And when you open your mouth in obedience, walls will fall that generations could not tear down. And even as you read this, you can feel the fire stirring again, the ache that never left, the knowing that always whispered, there's more. And yes, there's more, but it can't come through anyone else. You are the only one who could do this, and that's why the alarm in your spirit keeps ringing louder than ever before. And I won't let it be silenced by fear or fatigue, because your yes is tied to a move of God that has no backup plan, and I am not waiting for you to feel ready. I am commanding you to remember who you are and why I sent you. There is a moment, and this is it, when heaven no longer waits for your hesitation to fade but demands your complete embodiment of the identity I have whispered over you since time began. The air around you is shifting, and if you listen closely, you'll hear the trembling of everything that has been silently waiting for you to step into what was always yours. Doors you thought were locked are not locked. They've just been holding their breath, waiting for your footsteps to carry the authority that only your obedience can activate. But here's the truth that cannot be softened. You have been delaying what I already called finished. And while grace has protected you in your hiding, purpose has been burning for release. There are people aching, wandering, collapsing, and they are unknowingly orbiting around your future decision. They don't know your name, but they will be rescued by your rise. This is the moment where you stop asking for signs and start becoming the signal. This is not another warm encouragement. This is a divine jolt, a holy disruption. Because even creation groans, waiting for sons and daughters to stop shrinking and start stepping into the stature of what I placed inside them. And yes, the longer you delay, the louder the chaos will become, not as punishment but as a divine echo, a reminder that your voice was crafted to confront the storm, not hide beneath it. That weight you feel on your chest is not anxiety. It's the pressure of an unbirthed destiny pressing against time, demanding to be delivered. And when you finally break agreement with smallness, when you stop negotiating your worth with opinions and systems that never saw your full light, then the things that were stuck will start moving, not because they changed, but because you did. Everything around you is waiting for your spirit to stand up. And no, this isn't about becoming something new. This is about revealing what has always been burning beneath the surface. You are the match and the wildfire, the key and the entrance, the voice and the shaking. The fear that has held you in a false safety net is being broken right now because I'm speaking directly to your deeper knowing, the place that no one could reach but me. You are not random. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are precisely aligned for this moment in history, and I have already spoken to the winds, the angels, the divine resources, and the unseen helpers, and they are all in position, watching for one movement from you. When you walk into it, it will look like miracles. When you speak, it will sound like freedom. When you choose yourself the way I have chosen you, darkness will lose its grip on regions you didn't even know were chained. This is not too much for you. This is exactly what you were built for. But your breakthrough cannot come from hesitation. It requires activation, full, unapologetic, fearless movement into what your soul has known all along. Everything changes when you stop reaching for permission and start walking with conviction. Your light is not too bright. Your calling is not too bold. Your timing is not off. You are not one of many. You are the tipping point. The final yes. The living evidence that heaven did not forget how to invade earth through a single yielded life. So I speak now into your bones, awaken. I speak to your mind, align. I speak to your hands, build. I speak to your spirit, burn. Because, child, once you accept that the mantle belongs to you, the things that once mocked you will now need your mercy. And it all begins now, when you finally believe that you were not made to follow the wave, but to become the wave itself. This is not just another hour on the clock. This is the sacred intersection where time bends to meet decision, where one breath of boldness could shift outcomes generations ahead. Your hesitation had been heard in the invisible realm, not as rebellion, but as spiritual confusion. And I come now, not with condemnation, but with a thunderous invitation to rise beyond every limitation you've entertained as truth. You have allowed fear to borrow your authority for too long. You've waited for ideal circumstances to form around you, not realizing the shift was waiting to begin within you. But now, child, the window of divine urgency is narrowing, and I am pulling you from indecision with the force of a father who refuses to let his chosen fall behind destiny's timeline. Every moment you choose comfort over calling, a ripple of impact is withheld from those whose miracles are tied to your voice. Yes, your voice. I didn't choose you for background roles or side scenes. I chose you to alter the outcome. Not through perfection, but through obedience. Not with applause, but with alignment. Every unspoken word I gave you is beginning to ache inside you like a trumpet longing to sound. Every delayed yes is pulling on timelines that were designed to flourish through your movement. There are people suffocating in silence that only your words can break. There are paths that will not open until your feet walk upon them. And there are moments like this, rare, heavy, heaven-saturated, where the Spirit will not let you rest because too much is waiting to be released through your surrender. You say, "But I'm not ready." And I respond, I never asked for readiness. I asked for trust. I did not call you by accident. I called you by blueprint. Everything I've placed within you is coded for now, not some distant, ideal future where all things are polished and easy, but now, where grit and grace collide. There is no more time to negotiate with doubt. The heavens are leaning forward, watching for your movement. My Spirit has already cleared the way. What's missing is your agreement. You think one step won't matter, but to me, one act of obedience carries the power to reroute the future of families, cities, even nations. You carry what others are searching for. You host what hell hoped would never be revealed. You are my weapon disguised as a whisper, my miracle hidden in human form. And the longer you pause, the louder darkness dances, not because it has power, but because it senses you're the one ordained to shut it down. There are strongholds that will collapse when you open your mouth. There are atmospheres that will shift when you stop blending in. There is deliverance that will move like fire when you break agreement with passivity and say yes. fully, fiercely, finally. Child, this is not a moment for partial commitment or soft answers. This is the hour where your silence would scream louder than your mistakes ever could. Don't wait to feel qualified. Don't wait for the fear to leave. Move in it. Speak over it. Walk through it. I'm not asking you to eliminate all your questions. I'm asking you to trust me louder than them. I'm not asking you to be fearless. I'm asking you to fear not. The time is critical. The shaking has begun. And I have placed within you a sound that can stop the unraveling of things around you. That sound is obedience. That sound is faith. That sound is you, finally echoing what I've already shouted over you in heaven. This one will not miss it. This one will rise. You weren't meant for hiding, for shrinking, for folding beneath prayer. I built you with fire, not with fragility. There's a frequency inside your spirit that disturbs the realm of fear, and hell knows it. That's why the attack has been fierce. It's why your resistance felt relentless. It wasn't random. It was strategic. Because your rising is dangerous. Your awakening sends tremors through the unseen. You're not just waking up to an assignment. You're waking up to the original purpose etched into your existence. You are not behind. You are not late. You are right on time for the unveiling. But child, it requires a decision. You cannot dance between two realms anymore. One step in, one step out is not enough for the weight of what I've placed within you. You have been marked, not for ordinary, but for outcome. Your very existence is an answer. Not just to one person, but to many. And they're watching, not for your perfection, but for your permission to believe again. You feel that stirring. That's not anxiety. That's not overthinking. That's the sound of heaven pushing you into the deep. You've outgrown the safety of shallow waters. It's time to step where your feet can't touch, because that's where faith lives. That's where miracles move. That's where revelation floods. You've spent enough seasons preparing. This is not another rehearsal. This is the opening act of what I've been shaping in silence. You don't need a stage to be effective. You don't need recognition to be powerful. You only need alignment. You only need to echo what I've whispered into your soul while the world was loud. It's time to let that roar come forth, not from anger, but from divine authority. I'm not asking you to shout with volume. I'm asking you to speak with clarity, to walk with posture, to live like the war has already been won, because it has. The battle isn't for victory, it's from victory. I need you to remember that every time fear whispers, you've overcome more than most ever will, and still, you rise. That's not chance, that's calling. That's not coincidence, that's covenant. Don't dilute yourself trying to be accepted by places I never sent you. Don't mute your fire to be palatable to those who fear the flame. You were meant to burn with purpose, not flicker with apology. You were made for more than fitting in. You were designed to shift the entire atmosphere when you walk in. There's no room for hesitation anymore. The cloud is moving, and I need you to move with it. You don't need confirmation when you've already been commissioned. This is the season where your obedience will unlock doors logic could never open. This is the season where your surrender will birth things faster than your effort ever could. I'm not trying to oppress you. I'm trying to equip you. I'm not trying to excite you. I'm trying to elicit you. The time for indecision is over. Let your yes be louder than your doubt. Let your obedience be quicker than your hesitation. Let your fire speak before your fear ever gets a chance. You are not who the enemy tried to convince you you were. You are my chosen, my vessel, my voice, my breakthrough wrapped in skin. The shift begins when you decide it does. The roar begins the moment you stop pretending you're not who I say you are. They may not understand it. That's fine. They weren't called to carry it. You were. And now, I am standing in front of you, eyes locked with yours, saying, it's time. Don't apologize. Don't overthink. Just roar. Let the silence break. Let the winds shift. Let the fire speak. This next part of your journey requires something deeper than confidence. It calls for raw, unfiltered trust. I am not merely adjusting your direction. I am transforming the entire path beneath your feet. You've walked by signs before. Now I'm asking you to move by impulse, not of flesh, but of the Spirit. You won't be able to explain it, not even to those closest to you. That's because this road hasn't been walked before. You're not following footsteps, you're leaving them. Every step you take in faith becomes a blueprint for someone else's escape from fear. I'm not asking you to wait for perfect alignment in the natural. I'm telling you that divine coordination has already begun in the unseen. Doors are unlocking while you sleep. Favor is locating you in rooms you've never stepped into. I'm orchestrating encounters that will shake your sense of logic. But you must continue forward, even when visibility drops, even when silence lingers. I'm not silent to punish you. I'm silent to deepen you. The roots are growing even when the surface seems still. You are not stuck, you are being secured. Fastened into purpose, so when the storm returns, you won't be moved. The next miracle won't come through striving. It will be birthed from stillness. But not the kind of stillness that sleeps, the kind that listens, that leans in, that obeys before it fully understands. And I know, the unknown stretches you. It pulls at your comfort, tests your surrender, exposes your reliance on clarity. But child, clarity is not your God. I am. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You need to trust the voice guiding your next step. Your instincts will not always align with your insight. That's because revelation is outrunning information. I am giving you insight that bypasses experience, access that overrides qualifications. Not because you earned it, but because I appointed it. And that's where many will misunderstand. They'll question how you got here. They'll try to connect dots that were never meant to be linear. Let them. Don't waste your breath explaining a divine detour to people who are still addicted to familiar places. You were never meant to circle that same wilderness again. The delay you thought was denial. It was preservation. I didn't let you take that route because it would have weakened what I needed to fortify. I didn't let those doors open because your oil would have been wasted where there was no demand for it. Now, I'm placing you where your essence will be honored, where your sound will break barriers, where your obedience will produce acceleration. And no, not everyone will celebrate it. Some will resist your rising. That's not your burden. Elevation always disrupts what's settled. But you're not here to be safe. You're here to be sent. Sent into places where others gave up. Sent into territories overrun by silence. Sent to build what no blueprint has captured. You're the first, and yes, that's heavy. But it's holy. And I'm not sending you empty. I'm sending you soaked in the oil of endurance, saturated in wisdom forged from pain, wrapped in the kind of fire that doesn't fizzle in pressure. This isn't about proving yourself. It's about proving my promise true through you. I chose you knowing the weight. I called you knowing the warfare. I anointed you knowing the backlash. And still, I say go. Because what's ahead is not a gamble. It's guaranteed. If you follow me, you won't fail. You may fall, but you won't be forsaken. You may stumble, but you won't be severed from grace. So breathe and step. Not because you feel ready, but because I've already made room for your feet to land in places you've never imagined. You are not behind. You're being launched. You've mistaken turbulence for danger, but what you're sensing is not destruction. It's divine activation. I'm awakening what I placed in you long ago, before time recognized your name, before pain shaped your reactions, before people mislabeled your capacity. This isn't a breakdown. It's a summoning, a holy unearthing of things you buried under fear, under disappointment, under the debris of delayed outcomes and long nights of unanswered questions. I'm not trying to calm the storm. I'm letting it roar until your authority awakens. You were not created to bow to chaos. You were shaped to command stillness from a place of covenant. And yet, I see it. The hesitancy, the trembling, the glance backward toward what once gave you control. But I have no interest in letting you return to safety when your assignment was always to walk on the water. You were never designed to sink in what others drown in. That's why the pressure hasn't crushed you. That's why the battles didn't win. You weren't preserved to merely survive. You were kept to be released, and now is that moment. But listen carefully, because this is where most turn back. The enemy won't attack your history. He'll try to hijack your movement. He'll whisper confusion when you're right on the edge of clarity. He'll send distractions wrapped in comfort, detours disguised as easy exits. But I trained your discernment in the darkness. You'll recognize the difference now. Not by what it looks like, but by how your spirit reacts when you get close to it. If it makes you shrink, it's not from me. If it makes you second-guess what I already confirmed, don't open the door. I'm not the author of mixed signals. My voice may stretch you, but it won't shake your identity. When I lead, peace walks with you even when the path is paved with fire. And yes, this next stretch may feel weightier, because it is. But that's only because what's growing through you now carries nations, not just needs. I am birthing a movement in silence. That's why I've kept you hidden. You thought you were being forgotten, but I was securing your foundation, out of sight, where applause couldn't manipulate your motives and popularity couldn't cheapen your purity. Because what's coming next won't be about platforms. It will be about impact. An impact doesn't come from talent. It comes from surrender. From showing up even when you're tired. From lifting your voice when no one claps. From loving when your heart aches. That's what I've been building in you, a resilience that doesn't perform, it pours. And now I'm positioning you to release what others couldn't carry. But you must remember, this isn't about rushing. Acceleration in my kingdom doesn't mean chaos. It means alignment. What took years will collapse into moments, but not because you chased it, because you trusted me with it. And those watching from a distance will try to explain it, contain it, define it. Don't defend it. You were never meant to be understood by everyone. I didn't anoint you for their approval. I chose you for their deliverance. And deliverers don't always look like heroes in the beginning. Sometimes they are overlooked, underestimated, even rejected. But I've wrapped you in fire that doesn't flicker under scrutiny. I've taught your heart to bleed with purpose. I've carved your name into scrolls that heaven already released. So take this next breath like it's sacred, because it is. Take this next step like it's holy, because it is. You're not moving alone. I'm walking beside you with every inhale of courage you choose to release. And I promise, you'll not just make it through this, you'll multiply through it. Your legacy is stretching its arms. The future is shifting because you chose to believe again. That's what this was all for, not to punish you, but to prepare you. You're not behind. You're on the brink. You've been standing on fragments, haven't you? Holding together pieces of promises, balancing on edges of almost and not yet, trying to walk steady on terrain that always feels like it might give out under the pressure of your calling. But here's what I need you to understand. I never meant for you to build your future on temporary understanding. I never intended for your identity to rest on outcomes or opinions. That's why everything that was unsteady is crumbling now. Not to ruin you, but to rescue you. I'm removing the scaffolding that held you up only long enough for you to see what real strength feels like. Because now, I'm laying the unshakable. The kind of foundation that doesn't crack under betrayal. The kind that doesn't shift when finances stretch thin. The kind that stands strong when the voices around you go silent. You cried out for stability, and I answered. But I answered by first dismantling what you trusted more than me. And yes, it hurt. Yes, it felt like abandonment. But I never left. I just stood back while the false structures fell so you'd never lean on them again. You see, my child, I'm jealous over what carries your weight. I won't compete with counterfeit security. I won't allow you to build castles on sand and call it success. I'm the rock, the only ground that doesn't betray you when storms rise. And the reason it all feels unstable now is because I'm rearranging everything, not around your preference, but around my purpose. I'm tearing out weak blueprints and replacing them with designs forged in fire. Designs that don't bow to pressure. Designs that breathe legacy. Because I'm not just anchoring your present, I'm preparing your descendants to walk on ground you never had. What you're breaking through now isn't just for your healing. It's to carve a safe path for generations that will carry your mantle forward. But before I can trust you with that level of influence, I have to remove every crack that pride or pain might try to slip through. And I see those hidden crevices, the quiet doubts, the silent compromises, the way you not in agreement with me publicly but wrestle with fear privately. I'm not condemning you for it. I'm confronting it because you're too important to me to leave it untouched. This is why I've been silent in certain areas, not because I'm ignoring you, but because I'm speaking in the language of pressure. I'm letting the wait teach what words never could. Letting the delay reveal what you believe when answers don't arrive fast. Letting the silence amplify what truly sustains you when applause fades. I'm not cruel. I'm careful. I'm slow to elevate what hasn't been tested. Not because I don't love you, but because I love you too much to let your calling crush you. What I've placed inside you is heavy. Holy. Heaven-wrapped. And it demands depth before display. So I'm building you down before I raise you up. I'm teaching your roots how to grip me before your name reaches ears you've never met. Because when I release you, it won't be subtle. It won't be quiet. It will be halfway. It will be undeniable. And I need your character to be as loud as your gift. I need your stillness to be louder than the platform. I need your intimacy with me to be louder than every opportunity knocking at your door. So if it feels like everything's shaking, it's not to throw you off, it's to plant you deeper. Deeper than opinions. Deeper than performance. Deeper than popularity. This is your strengthening season. Not a punishment, but a holy revelation. And when the dust clears, when the rubble settles, you'll see what I was doing the entire time, not hiding from you, but holding the blueprint. Not delaying your future, but anchoring it. Not forgetting your prayers, but fulfilling them in a way that your heart wouldn't sabotage. Stay grounded. The foundation is almost set. And when it is, nothing, and I mean nothing, will be able to shake what I've planted in you again. Listen closely. What's stirring in your spirit isn't anxiety, it's alignment. It's the divine pulse of purpose that's been hidden inside you, finally reaching the surface. You've been sensing the shift, feeling the internal build-up, not understanding why everything feels like it's moving faster, sharper, louder. But it's not chaos, it's coordination. It's heaven assembling the exact conditions for a holy eruption. And you, my beloved, are the one positioned at the center of this unveiling. Not because you were loud, not because you were noticed, but because you were obedient in quiet places where no one clapped, where no one saw, where only I was watching. And I never forgot a single tear you planted in the soil of faith. Every surrender, every whisper of trust, every silent yes when the world told you to quit. I recorded it. And now, those hidden moments are unlocking the next movement. But here's what you must realize. This isn't just about you receiving something. This is about you becoming something. I didn't call you so you could simply witness miracles. I called you because you are the miracle I'm releasing into environments that have forgotten what my presence feels like. You're not stepping into a blessing. You're stepping into responsibility. You're carrying a frequency that breaks deception. You're holding keys to unlock doors no one else in the room even sees. That's why it's been so heavy. That's why the warfare hasn't made sense. Because the enemy sees the delivery before you do. He hears heaven's dispatch before it reaches your ears. And he's afraid, not of what you have, but of what you're about to realize is already yours. Let me say this plainly, you are not behind. I don't operate on earthly schedules. I'm not pacing in frustration over dates or deadlines. I work in fullness. And now, fullness is meeting you. The fullness of time. The fullness of purpose. The fullness of grace to handle what's being placed in your hands. That's why you've been feeling stretched. Because what I'm handing you is bigger than your previous season could support. I am to stretch your expectations. Expand your prayers. Broaden your faith. What you're carrying now won't survive inside yesterday's container. And if you try to go back, if you try to shrink again, if you try to explain away this call as coincidence, you'll feel more lost than ever. Not because I've moved far, but because I've moved forward. And I'm inviting you to come with me. Not through effort, through surrender. Not through force, through flow. Not by striving, but by stepping where I show you, moment by moment. This is where boldness must meet obedience. Not impulsive moves, but intentional motion. I will show you where to step next. You won't miss it. I'm not speaking in riddles. I'm speaking in clarity you'll only hear if you stop arguing with fear. Silence the voice of hesitation. Cancel the lies that say, you're not ready. You're not only ready, you're essential. There's a reason I waited until now. There's a reason this moment feels so crucial. Because this time, it's not a rehearsal. It's not training. It's the real thing. And the reason it feels so weighty is because the destiny you carry can't be delayed anymore. You were born for this intersection. You were shaped for this assignment. And now, I'm commanding every gate that resisted you to open. I'm summoning every answer that's been held up. I'm calling forth every helper who's been circling in delay. It's release time. Not because you've earned it, but because grace appointed it. So, walk forward like it's already unfolding, because it is. Walk like the oil is already flowing, because it is. Walk like the breakthrough already knows your name, because it does. I'm not asking you to build this alone. I'm not asking you to have it all figured out. I'm only asking you to trust me louder than the voices trying to distract you. Because while they talk, I move. And while they speculate, I establish. And while they doubt, I deliver. You're not late. You're exactly where heaven needs you to be. You keep wondering why the pressure won't ease, why the days feel heavier, why even the quiet moments are thick with expectation. But I need you to see this pressure for what it truly is. It's not punishment. It's preservation. I'm guarding what's growing inside you because it's not ordinary. You've been chosen to carry something holy, something history shifting, something heaven has carefully protected through every storm you've endured. That ache in your chest, it's not anxiety, it's anticipation. It's the sound of something eternal trying to break through the noise of your surroundings. And if you will stay steady for just a little longer, if you will stop interpreting discomfort as danger, you'll see what I've been orchestrating all along. This isn't the ending of your strength. It's the arrival of your true anointing. Every delay, every detour, every moment you question whether I was still leading you, I used it. Not one tear was wasted. Not one waiting room was empty of my presence. I was weaving. I was reshaping. I was preparing not just your hands but your heart. Because I'm not only elevating your influence, I'm refining your foundation. What I'm building through you requires depth. It requires integrity when no one's looking. It requires faith when nothing looks like it's working. That's why the pressure keeps increasing. Because the oil that's about to pour out of your life doesn't come from ease, it comes from crushing. And you, my beloved, are being pressed, not to harm you but to extract the purest form of what I placed within you before time ever began. You were never called to fit in. That's why you've always felt slightly out of rhythm with what's popular, slightly misaligned with what everyone else seems content with. You weren't made to echo their steps. You were designed to break new ground. That unsettled feeling, it's the compass of destiny steering you away from imitation and into revelation. You keep searching for confirmation in places that were never meant to validate you. But your confirmation comes from my voice, not their approval. My call is enough. My word over your life is sufficient. And the moment you stop trying to convince others of what I've already sealed, you'll start to walk in a power that doesn't flinch under scrutiny. You'll step with such authority that even the atmosphere will adjust to your obedience. Let me ask you something I've already whispered to your spirit. Why do you think the resistance has been so strong lately? Why do you think everything seems to intensify right when you take a step of faith? It's because hell sees what's coming. The enemy isn't attacking your present. He's terrified of your future. He knows what happens when you fully realize who you are in me. He knows what shifts when you stop playing small, when you stop second-guessing the voice that called you. And that's why you've been hit on every side, not because you're weak, but because you're dangerous. You're carrying something that disrupts darkness. You're holding an assignment that shakes systems. And that's why this moment is so critical, because what happens next doesn't just affect you. It touches generations. I've not brought you this far to watch you sink now. This isn't the season to retreat. It's the moment to rise with unwavering resolve, even if your knees are trembling. You don't need all the answers. You don't need the full picture. You just need the courage to step. I will meet you there. I always have. I always will. You've trusted me with tears in your eyes before. Do it again. You followed me when it made no sense. Do it again. Because this time, something is different. This time, heaven isn't just watching. It's moving with you. Here's an angelic assignment surrounding every choice you make in faith. There's a divine momentum behind every yes you whisper in the dark. Don't slow down. Don't turn back. Keep walking. Even now, the ground is shifting in your favor. You've spent nights wrestling with thoughts you couldn't even put into words, wondering if you were seen, if your pain mattered, if anyone could comprehend the weight you've been quietly carrying. And though your mouth never said it out loud, your soul has cried for answers, for clarity, for rescue. I heard every cry. I watched every private moment of surrender when no one was around to applaud your strength. And now comes the shift. Now begins the unveiling of what your quiet perseverance has produced. You thought your silence meant I was inactive, but I was preparing a response that would speak louder than any voice that ever questioned your journey. I have never left your side, and I'm about to show you why your wait was not in vain. You didn't realize that each time you chose faith instead of fear, even when it hurt, you were moving mountains in the spirit. While others were chasing applause, you were chasing me. While many were looking for shortcuts, you stayed in the place of refinement. You didn't run when things grew uncomfortable. You stayed on the altar, even when the flames felt unrelenting. That's what set you apart. That's why your breakthrough will look different. Because you weren't building something shallow, you were allowing me to carve depth into your spirit, layer by layer. What I'm doing through you now can't be fabricated by ambition or strategy. It can only be birthed through obedience. And you, beloved, have passed through the fire with a heart still open to me. I know there were days when you questioned if you heard me right. When the path felt lonely, when the confirmation felt absent, when all you had to hold on to was a whisper in your spirit. But you clung to that whisper like it was everything, and that is faith. You may not have realized it then, but all of heaven leaned in each time you believed with trembling hands. That unseen bravery did not go unrewarded. Right now, I'm aligning things that were tangled for years. I'm reordering timelines to favor your positioning. People who dismissed you will be witnesses to what I am doing through you, not because of vengeance, but because of purpose. I want them to see what trust looks like when it's fully surrendered to my will. There's something else I need you to hear, and it can't wait. You have no idea how many lives are attached to your obedience. Every step you take in courage, every decision you make that honors me, every boundary you set to protect your calling, it ripples farther than you can imagine. I'm using your journey as a blueprint for others who are still struggling to believe that I speak, that I rescue, that I restore. You are not just surviving this for yourself. You are paving a road others will walk with more confidence because of the example your life has become. Don't discount the influence I've placed within you. Don't shrink under the weight of visibility. I've built you for this. I'm holding you up when it feels too heavy. You're not doing this alone. Right now, something is unlocking over you. I'm opening doors that were sealed shut, not because you weren't ready before, but because the timing had to protect the promise. What's coming next is not delayed, it's matured. It's arriving in fullness. You won't have to force it. You won't have to manipulate your way into it. It will come with ease because it's been marinated in my timing. And when it comes, you'll know, not just that I kept my word, but that I was with you in every hour that tried to steal your hope. This is your confirmation. This is your moment. Walk into it with your head high and your spirit steady. Because I'm moving, and this time, I'm not just delivering what you prayed for. I'm exceeding it in ways that will leave you undone. You've been noticing subtle shifts, quiet nudges in your inner being that don't fully make sense to your mind, but your spirit is alert. That uneasiness you feel, the tension between what you see and what you know deep within, is not confusion. It's spiritual activity rising all around you. I'm stirring the environment to make room for what you've been anointed to step into. Things may appear chaotic on the surface, but within the turbulence, I'm constructing a divine order that will soon manifest plainly before you. I've kept certain pieces hidden for a reason, not to frustrate you, but to fortify you. I was training you to discern without needing full visibility, and now, because you've trusted me even in the shadows, I'm moving you into a season of precise clarity. This next portion of your journey requires a sensitivity that refuses to be distracted. The noise around you will attempt to distort the sound of my voice, but I've already equipped you to recognize what carries my presence and what does not. You won't need to second-guess what I reveal. It will come with a peace so sharp, it will silence every conflicting opinion. The world will try to offer you alternate paths, quicker options, tempting distractions dressed in convenience. But what I'm releasing to you is not just a solution. It's a divine alignment that fits perfectly with the architecture of your purpose. You're not late. You haven't missed it. In fact, your willingness to stay hidden when I said wait is the very reason I'm choosing to unveil what's next through you. I know it has been exhausting. You've battled in ways that can't be explained, holding on to invisible instructions that seemed foolish to outsiders. You've been misunderstood, overlooked, and at times, even questioned your own convictions. But not once did I remove my gaze from you. Even in your questioning, you remained in position. Even when you didn't understand, you stayed available. That's what sets you apart. That's why the shift occurring now carries a weight of glory that cannot be denied. I'm not elevating you for applause. I'm positioning you for impact. This isn't about recognition. It's about execution. I've assigned you to carry something weighty, and the time has arrived for you to walk in it without apology. There are people who counted you out, not maliciously, but simply because they couldn't see what I deposited inside of you. Don't be bitter toward them. Bless them. They were never supposed to validate what I reserved for divine confirmation. I didn't allow their applause, because I didn't want your confidence to be built on anything temporal. I wanted you to be grounded in me, unshaken by praise, unmoved by rejection. And now, when the unveiling begins, there will be no doubt about who orchestrated it. I'm putting a spotlight on the testimony your life carries, not for show, but for truth. What I'm doing through you will awaken dormant hearts, call out hidden warriors, and activate bold obedience in places that have remained passive for too long. You are entering a window where rapid movement will occur, and I need your focus sharper than ever. Doors will open that look good, but not all will be ordained. Listen closely. I will guide you step by step. Don't rush. Don't compare. Don't try to mimic another's path. What I've tailored for you fits no one else. I've designed every thread, every curve, every edge with your assignment in mind. Walk into it with confidence, not arrogance. Stay anchored in humility. and I will expand your reach beyond what you could have strategized. You won't need to force your way forward. Your surrender already made the way. And hear me, this isn't the end of your preparation. It's the beginning of your demonstration. Everything I taught you in secret, I'm about to reveal through you in public. The time of wondering if I'll move has passed. Now is the moment to recognize I already am. Stay alert. Stay expectant. Stay close. Because what happens next will make everything make sense. This moment holds too much weight for compromise. You've been called to release something that doesn't belong to this present alone. It carries echoes that will stretch into futures you haven't imagined yet. That's why I've kept you in environments that felt isolating. I wasn't punishing you. I was preserving you. I've been protecting the purity of the assignment, shielding it from contamination, until the atmosphere was ready to receive what I placed in your hands. There were invitations you had to decline, opportunities you were tempted to embrace, and even people you had to walk away from, not because they were evil, but because they weren't connected to your legacy. I'm not just building a moment. I'm setting a foundation that generations will stand on. You keep wondering why the warfare intensified the moment you decided to obey me completely. It's because the darkness saw what was forming before you did. Hell always reacts when a carrier of purpose begins to recognize their real weight. The resistance you faced isn't random. It's been precisely calculated to dismantle your clarity, sabotage your timing, and shake your resolve. But it didn't work. You're still here. And that, alone, has disrupted more than you know. You've broken patterns simply by enduring. You've shifted atmospheres just by refusing to quit. You've created tremors in the unseen realm just by staying committed when walking away would have been easier. That's what qualifies you for what's next. Not perfection, but unwavering endurance. You don't need applause. You don't need affirmation. What you carry is self-authenticating. It doesn't need to be explained. It needs to be released. I will confirm it. I will open space for it. I will draw the right hearts to it. All I'm asking from you now is alignment. Keep your motives pure. Keep your ears open. Keep your hands clean. Because what I'm about to release through you isn't common. It won't fit into predictable systems. It will be approved by majority opinion. It will, however, bear undeniable fruit. You'll see lives transformed, cycles shattered, regions awakened, and you won't even need to shout. Your stillness, your yes, your quiet obedience will speak louder than anything else. I know you feel the weight increasing. That's because what's been private is about to emerge publicly. You've been hidden for a long time, but now I'm sending you forward. Not for applause, not for recognition, but for impact, for souls, for territories. You're not being exposed. You're being entrusted. I'm releasing you as a weapon, a voice that cannot be silenced, a light that won't flicker under pressure. Every tear you've shed in silence watered the soil of what's now springing forth. Every delay was me pulling you back like an arrow, not to hold you down, but to launch you further than you thought possible. What I'm establishing through your yes will not crumble under pressure. It won't be shaken by criticism. It won't falter during storms. I've tested the blueprint. I've fortified every part. And you are stronger than you know. You've been thinking you barely made it, but the truth is, you've been breaking through layer after layer of resistance. That fire you walked through, it refined you. That wilderness you wandered in, it taught you discernment. That silence that scared you, it helped you hear my whisper. Nothing was wasted. I used every moment, every season, every scar. Now I'm weaving it all together into a testimony that will speak volumes. Don't hold back now. This isn't the time to shrink. This is when you stretch. This is when you say yes without needing every answer. This is when you trust me more than the metrics, more than the crowds, more than the visible results. I didn't choose you for comfort. I chose you for impact. I didn't anoint you to blend in. I marked you to build what others were afraid to attempt. And now, the sound of your surrender is shaking open doors that were sealed for years. Stay present. Stay sensitive. Stay pure. Because what's about to come through you will carry ripples of eternity. You weren't forgotten. You were being fashioned. Not for something ordinary, but for something no one else was willing to carry. That kind of weight takes preparation. That kind of depth requires pruning. I had to strip away every false dependency, every attachment that whispered security but secretly weakened your resilience. You mistook my silence for absence, but I was nearer than ever. Watching, measuring, molding, waiting for the exact moment your spirit would finally be empty enough of the world's opinions to be filled with my pure direction. And that moment has arrived. What's about to be released through your obedience could not have emerged any sooner. It had to be this time, this pressure, this atmosphere. You've grown in ways you don't fully recognize. You've developed layers of courage that will surprise you the moment you're required to stand alone. You've embraced stillness while others rushed ahead, not out of weakness, but out of divine understanding. You've learned the wisdom of pausing, the beauty of boundaries, the strength of choosing peace over performance. And now, I'm about to give you clarity that will make up for every confusing season you endured. I'm releasing instructions that will cut through fog, purpose that will settle restlessness, answers that will make you gasp in wonder. What felt like wasted years are about to reveal their purpose in a single moment of my orchestration. You see, it wasn't just about your readiness. It was also about the conditions around you. I was aligning spaces, preparing people, opening paths, ranging divine collisions that required precise timing. You were being refined while the environment was being reshaped. If I had sent you too soon, you would have compromised. If I had accelerated your breakthrough without equipping your character, it would have crushed you. That's why I shielded you from stages you thought you were ready for. That's why I whispered not yet when everything in you screamed now. I was never withholding. I was protecting. I was ensuring that when you stepped forward, nothing would be able to reverse it. Now, the resistance around you will shift. Not because the warfare disappears, but because your posture is different. You will not respond the same way. You won't panic at closed doors. You won't chase what rejects you. You've outgrown the need for external validation, and that alone makes you unstoppable. Your movement is no longer driven by desperation. It's fueled by revelation. You know who sent you. You know what you carry. You know how long it took to get here. And that awareness will anchor you in storms that would have swallowed the old you. There's still more stretching ahead, yes, but it won't break you. You've already endured the most painful tearing, the one that separated your will from mine. That's the hardest surrender, and you've done it. Now, every next step will flow from alignment, not striving. You won't need to manipulate doors. They'll open because they recognize your voice. You won't need to force connection. The ones who are sent will arrive on time. You won't need to explain yourself. Your fruit will speak louder than your words ever could. This is a different rhythm now, a divine cadence. One that confuses those who measure success by speed, but delights the heavens that see impact through obedience. So don't compare. Don't panic if it still looks quiet for a little longer. Trust that I'm finishing the final details. Trust that I'm orchestrating more than you know. Trust that your name has already been spoken in rooms you haven't entered yet. Trust that what's coming will not need to be chased. It will meet you in perfect rhythm. You've sown in tears, you've prayed in secret. You've held on when surrender felt easier. And now, the soil is ready. The heavens are moving. The release had been authorized. And the fullness of time has found you. They moved ahead because their calling demanded motion. But you were being called into depth, into realms of weight that couldn't be rushed or downloaded. I hid you from platforms so you'd hear me more clearly in private. I shielded you from premature applause because it would have silenced the sacred whisper I was placing inside you. Your elevation came with visibility, yours comes with authority. And authority isn't given quickly. It's forged in fire, tested in silence, and proven in surrender. You didn't fall behind. You were held back by design, by the very hand that created you. I slowed you so I could stretch you. I delayed you so I could deepen you. I rerouted you because straight lines weren't enough to shape your capacity. You weren't born for simple. You weren't marked for the average. You carry mantle, and mantles are heavy. They require rooms inside you to be built that others never need. That's why your path has looked longer. That's why your pain has felt deeper. That's why your process has felt lonely. But that uniqueness is your treasure, not your punishment. While others were being launched, I was digging foundations under you. While others were being celebrated, I was writing your DNA to match your next level. While others were building presence, I was constructing permanence within you. You will not just arrive, you will remain. And those who remain must be forged differently. They must be emptied thoroughly. They must be hidden long enough that pride has no place left to grow. That's what I've done in you. I haven't been punishing you. I've been preparing the world for your release. The world doesn't need another echo. It needs a voice. And your voice will carry what no minute can fabricate. The aroma of surrender, the weight of experience, the oil of obedience. You will not speak just to inspire. You will speak and things will shift. Atmospheres will bow. Chains will tremble. Demons will panic. Not because of your charisma, but because of your crucifixion. You laid down what others clung to. You gave up what others chase. You chose secret faithfulness over public platforms, and that choice authored a fire within you that no storm can extinguish. And now, I am unveiling you, slowly, intentionally, deliberately. Not as an entertainer, not as a performer, but as a vessel. As one who carries my fragrance, as one who doesn't seek light but releases it. You will walk into places and clarity will flood the confused. You will say little, and hearts will shift. You will release a sound that isn't manufactured. It's born from fire. The kind of sound that doesn't just stir emotion, but awakens identity. The kind of presence that doesn't point to you but drips with me. You've envied others while I was envying the purity of your heart. You questioned your pace while I was bragging to heaven about your endurance. You begged me to speed up while I was anchoring you in soil too deep for surface storms to reach. You're not delayed, you're rooted. And rooted trees may not impress early, but they are the last ones standing when drought comes. Your legacy isn't being built for applause. It's being built to endure, to last, to remain long after fads fade and trends change. This is not your climax, it's your emergence. A rising not marked by noise, but by necessity. You've been needed all along, but now the world will know it too. Not because you forced visibility, but because I said now. And when I say now, nothing can deny your entry. Not opinions, not systems, not barriers, not histories, not fears. The gates are opening because I'm walking with you through them. And I don't need permission to elevate what I designed. So shake the dust off delay. Cave the shame of comparison. Stand in the truth that your timing was never broken. It was sacred. Stand tall, not in pride, but in reverence. I've carried you through shadows to prepare you for light. And now, it's your moment. Quiet, yes, but holy. Gentle, yes, but unstoppable. I've lit the flame. Walk forward now, and let what I placed in you ignite everything around you. When your name stopped echoing in their conversations, mine never ceased calling it in the heavens. When your presence felt erased in their circles, I etched you deeper into my purpose. Silence wasn't absence. It was sacred activity behind the veil. I was crafting volume in your voice where only stillness could teach it. I was forming resolve in your steps through terrain others couldn't survive. You were never overlooked, you were overprotected. What you saw as rejection was a cocoon of preservation. I closed doors so early winds wouldn't uproot your wings before they strengthened. You were asking me for arrival while I was anchoring you in the realm of revelation. You wanted fruit, but I was fertilizing roots. I refused to let you bloom prematurely because your fragrance carries my intention, not just your ambition. I placed you under the radar to dismantle your need to be seen and inflated your awareness of being held. That awareness, child, is your oil. That oil, no storm can steal. What you carry now cannot be corrupted by platforms or poisoned by applause because it was not birthed in visibility. It was birthed in wilderness, in shadows, in daily surrender. They saw you sit still, but I saw you war in the secret. They judged your pause, but I heard your cry. While they kept moving for progress, you kept leaning into presence. You gave me your timeline, and in return, I gave you eternity's imprint. That transaction rewrote your authority. You carry what costs time, sacrifice, and holy silence. You don't echo what's trending, you carry what I whispered while the world was too loud to listen. And now, because you refuse to rush, you carry revelation not everyone can handle. Do you understand, beloved, how rare you are? I don't create many like this. The kind that doesn't need credit to continue. The kind that doesn't demand spotlight to stay obedient. The kind that doesn't use their calling to compete but to intercede. I shaped you into a quiet earthquake. You move softly, but everything trembles when you pass. Because you're not just moving with knowledge, you're moving with encounter. You're walking with me, not just for me. And that kind of walk shifts dimensions when you speak. I didn't need you popular. I needed you prepared. I didn't need you applauded. I needed you anointed. That is why I lengthened the nights and slowed the sunrises. Because every second of stillness was sowing eternity into your soul. And now you carry a message that will rip veils off the sleeping and tear chains off the weary, not through force, but through fire. That fire I lit when you thought no one was watching. That fire I protected when you thought you'd been forgotten. So walk now with the knowing that your time wasn't wasted, it was multiplied. You don't just emerge. You erupt with my signature. The delay didn't rob you. It preserved the weight of what you're now called to release. You don't need introductions. Your presence will explain what I've done. You don't need validation. Your transformation will testify. You don't need permission. Heaven already opened the scroll and released your season. I placed endurance inside your lungs so you wouldn't lose breath when the elevation changed. I constructed wisdom in your spine so you'd stand straight when lies tried to bend you. I gave you discernment that cuts through flattery and distractions because where I'm placing you next requires clarity, not compromise. And you are ready. Not by your metrics but by mine. And I don't misspeak when I say, this is your release. Not a self-launch. A divine unveiling. A holy roar in human form. So go forward without fear. Without doubt. Without looking over your shoulder for comparison. They were on a different curriculum. You were on the deep track. The one where storms become teachers and silence becomes symphony. You passed tests they didn't see. You conquered battles you couldn't post. You remained faithful where most would have fled. And because of that, you don't just have a calling. You have clearance. Now let the wind hit your back. Let my voice thunder through your steps. Let every room feel the echo of the wilderness you survived. And know this, you're not emerging as a survivor, you're rising as a carrier. And what you carry will alter atmospheres and realign destinies. This is not your beginning. This is my continuation through you. They measured your progress using clocks I never set. They whispered that you missed the moment, that your steps were offbeat. But, beloved, I don't operate by rotations of the sun. I move by rhythm of purpose. What they called delay, I called divine calibration. They saw quietness, I saw a countdown. When they looked for motion, I was preparing momentum. They only see what's visible. but I build foundations in realms that don't make noise. I had to conceal you while I recalibrated what you were being trained to carry, not for where they thought you'd go, but for where I planned to send you. You see, when others race on tracks made by men, I draw out hidden paths in the wilderness for my chosen ones. You weren't disqualified, you were distinguished. You weren't benched. You were being blessed in silence. I hid your elevation behind lessons they couldn't understand. They clapped for temporary fireworks, but I was planting within you the fuse of something explosive, something that doesn't entertain, but liberates. You were made to be a breaker, not a performer. And so, yes, you didn't rise with the rest. You didn't bloom in their season. But what's growing in you isn't seasonal. It's supernatural. You're not part of the crowd's awakening. You're the trumpet that will call it forth. That's why I kept you in what felt like obscurity. You're not a late bloomer. You're a heaven-time detonator. When I send you, atmospheres will rupture. When you speak, bondages will collapse. Because while they rushed into visibility, you were built in invincibility. I taught you how to bend without breaking, how to wait without complaining, how to burn without being consumed. These aren't ordinary lessons. They are scrolls etched into your spirit, not for survival but for activation. Every night you cried, every yes you whispered when no one noticed, every time you chose my voice over the noise, those moments weren't missed. They were multiplied. I stored them in my vault. And now, I'm using them as keys to open doors no man can shut. Don't be surprised when people act confused about your emergence. They didn't see the weight you carried in the dark. They didn't hear the midnight warfare in your worship. They don't know that your authority wasn't handed to you. It was wrestled for in silence. That's why when you walk into places now, things will shift without an announcement. Because I've placed a mark on you that wasn't designed to please, it was designed to pierce. You'll recognize the difference when your presence starts disturbing the comfort zones of shallow places. Not because you're loud, but because you're loaded. Not because you shine, but because you survive. Your story isn't one of ease, it's one of endurance. And that endurance has been soaked in divine fire. That fire makes your voice unshakable and your spirit immovable. I didn't call you to blend in. I called you to break through. And this is why it seemed like everyone else was ahead of you. I wasn't preparing you to be fast. I was training you to be effective. I wasn't rushing you toward influence. I was filling you with insight. What good is a platform without power? What good is exposure without equipping? I gave you the weight of understanding because your mouth was never meant for empty words. It was designed to carry utterances that trigger awakening in dry bones. Now, you walk not with insecurity, but with intensity. Not with arrogance, but with awareness. The waiting did not weaken you. It refined you. The silence did not shut you down. It tuned you in. The hiddenness did not hold you back. It made you holy. And when I say it's time, no algorithm, no timeline, no human gatekeeper can delay what I've ordained. You're not stepping into the spotlight. You're stepping into fulfillment. So move now, not with hesitation, but with conviction. For this moment, I didn't just prepare for you. I prepared you for it. You are the response to prayers others haven't even dared to voice. You are the vessel for answers heaven's been waiting to release. And every second that felt like stagnation was actually sacred synchronization with eternity. It's not too late. It's precisely on time. You're not catching up. You're arriving. And when you do, the earth will know I sent you. Listen to me closely. What looked like rejection was divine restriction. What felt like being pushed aside was really me pulling you out of harm's reach. I didn't allow certain people to notice you, not because you were unworthy, but because they were unready. I shielded you from premature partnerships, platforms, and praises that would have polluted the purity of what I planted in you. I know how fragile the roots are when they are first beginning to dig deep. You thought I was withholding, but I was safeguarding. I wasn't keeping things from you. I was keeping you from things that looked like blessings but were traps in disguise. You must understand this clearly. My timing has nothing to do with popularity and everything to do with purpose. If I had unveiled you earlier, they would have tried to mold you into something less dangerous to their comfort. They would have tried to redefine you before you knew who you truly were in me. That's why I waited. That's why I concealed. Because I wasn't trying to give you visibility, I was giving you clarity. I didn't want you performing. I wanted you to become. And now that you've been forged in the secret place, you are too costly for counterfeit alliances. I let them walk past you not because they couldn't see, but because I wouldn't let them access what wasn't theirs to touch. Your silence wasn't absence. It was preservation. Your isolation wasn't punishment, it was consecration. I was raising you in an upper room while others were running to crowded stages. I poured oil over you in the unseen, because when I raise someone, it must come with weight, not just wonder. That's why your story doesn't make sense to casual observers. They can't grasp why doors didn't open when you knocked, or why people backed away when you stepped forward. It confuses them how someone so full of light could be kept in the shadows. But I never asked them to understand. I only asked you to trust. You followed me without applause. You obeyed when there was no audience. That obedience became the compass I now use to guide you into rooms that your resume never could. What's coming next will look sudden to the world, but it will feel overdue to your spirit. Because you've been ready longer than they realize. You've been waiting with expectancy while others were rushing with ego. And because of that, I can now release you with authority. You won't step into rooms as a guest, but as a carrier. You're not coming in to compete. You're coming in to complete something heaven has been orchestrating since before you were born. Let them say you came out of nowhere. They weren't supposed to know where I hid you. Let them call it surprising. They don't understand the precision of my hand. You were concealed, not because you were forgotten, but because the magnitude of your assignment required a secrecy that defied human logic. I didn't want applause to confuse your mission. I didn't want fame to dilute your fire. I wanted your heart to burn for me alone. So when the lights finally turned on, you would reflect my glory and not your own. So here we are, at the turning point. You won't need to introduce yourself. Your fruit will speak for you. You won't have to explain what you carry. The atmosphere will confirm it. You won't be entering through human permission. You'll be moving by divine command. And every eye that bypassed you will now witness the unveiling that only I could orchestrate. They will see not just your rise, but my signature on your story. Don't hesitate when the curtain lifts. Don't shrink when the spotlight comes. Remember, you didn't beg for it. You didn't chase it. I brought it to you because you were faithful when no one was looking. This is what it looks like when heaven introduces someone. This is what it sounds like when obscurity ends and destiny begins. Not with noise, but with power. Not with popularity, but with purpose. Your unveiling has nothing to prove. It has everything to release. You've been hidden long enough. Now, it's time for heaven to show why. What you called wasted time was actually sacred sagem. You were measuring progress by what moved around you. But I was measuring transformation by what shifted within you. I did not forget the promises I whispered while you cried into your pillow. I didn't overlook the sacrifices that no one else saw. Every sigh you released in surrender became the signal for me to begin building what eyes could not detect. I let the calendar pass without your desired breakthrough, not because I was ignoring your prayers, but because I was aligning the stage for something so undeniable that even those who doubted you will have to acknowledge my hand upon your life. I know you've been asking, why is it taking so long? But what you don't yet see is that this wait has birthed resilience in you that no shortcut ever could. The season you called silent was actually full of sound. You just couldn't hear it with natural ears. Heaven was echoing over you with instructions, interventions, intercessions. I had angels circling around your situation while you thought I was distant. I had timelines rearranged, hearts softened, systems interrupted, all for you to walk in at the exact second everything is ready to receive what I've built in you. A delay wasn't punishment. It was precision. Because I don't just want you to arrive, I want you to take root. I don't release without establishing. That's why I didn't allow you to walk into certain rooms prematurely. You would have adjusted to fit their comfort instead of standing boldly in your call. You would have traded your originality for their approval. But I waited until you no longer needed permission to be who I made you to be. Until you were bold enough to walk in without shrinking, confident enough to speak without diluting, surrendered enough to rise without self-exalting. That's what this delay has done. It's dismantled every illusion that tried to tell you I was finished with you. It broke the pride that wanted to build without me, and crushed the fear that whispered you were unqualified. Now look again. You don't cry the same. You don't second-guess like before. You don't reach for validation from those who once ignored you. That is what the way produced. It's not just what I've done for you. It's who I've made you into while no one was watching. The delay forged a strength in you that no fast breakthrough could have created. And now, yes, now, you will see what I've been preparing. Not just for a moment, but for a movement. Not just a glimpse of blessing, but an avalanche of my intention rushing into your space. I've been lining up witnesses who will say, only God could have done this. I've been preparing seats for those who betrayed you to watch you flourish. Not for revenge, but for redemption. I'm going to make it so clear that this was me all along that even your enemies will have to agree. But here's what you must understand. This isn't happening just for you. It's happening through you. What I'm about to release is not merely a reward, but a responsibility. It's time-sensitive. It's spiritually urgent. Because your story is about to become someone else's confirmation. What I did in secret for you will become the public signal that I'm still writing miracles into the lives of those who refuse to quit. You've endured quietly. Now you will rise unapologetically. So don't just expect restoration, expect multiplication. Don't just hope for completion. Anticipate expansion. What was held back is coming back with interest. What was stalled is about to surge. The pace will shift subtly, but you are not unprepared. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are right on schedule for the moment heaven has orchestrated. And when it unfolds, you won't have to force anything. Doors will open as you approach them. Hearts will be ready before you even speak. The impossible will respond to your presence, because your presence will carry my presence. Get ready. This delay wasn't denial. It was design. And what's coming next will prove that every second you spent waiting was a seed in the soil of divine timing. Now comes the harvest that cannot be stopped. While they whispered their doubts and rehearsed their skepticism, I was gathering proof, not to convince them, but to crown you. I saw the way you kept going when everything screamed at you to stop. I watched how you kept believing even when doors slammed without explanation. You didn't fold, even though your heart broke silently behind closed curtains. You didn't retaliate when rumors tried to strip you of your honor. And because you chose obedience over opinion, I'm sending a response so swift, so precise, so undeniable that no one will be able to explain it away. You've been walking through days that felt like unanswered prayers, moments that tested your discernment, encounters that shook your sense of direction, but you didn't walk out. Even when silence felt like abandonment, you stayed. Even when I removed what you thought you needed, you trusted. And now, that unshakable faith is unlocking irreversible favor. I am placing tangible evidence in your hands. Not just ideas or glimpses, but fully realized outcomes. No more guessing. No more surviving off fragments. I'm giving you fullness. Visible, measurable, unstoppable. But don't expect it to look familiar. I'm not duplicating old patterns. I'm unveiling something completely original, because what I've written for you was never meant to resemble what others have walked through. Your timeline was not your template. Your route was not your assignment. You are walking into something tailor-made, crafted with details only heaven could weave together. And the beauty of what's coming won't just be in its size. It will be in its timing. You didn't chase shortcuts. You stayed faithful in obscurity. That is what positioned you to receive what others will call miraculous. And it's not just for your elevation. It's for heaven's declaration. Because when they see what I've done in your life, they'll have no choice but to reconsider what they thought was impossible. Your life is about to become the living answer to someone else's private petition. That's why I let it take this long, so it would speak louder than any explanation you could offer. You won't have to defend yourself. Your breakthrough will do all the talking. This is divine acceleration. What you thought would take years will unfold in weeks. What seemed out of reach is suddenly being placed in your grasp. But remember, the goal was never just comfort. The purpose was always impact. I allowed the pressure so that when you carried the blessing, it wouldn't crush you. I stretched your capacity so that when I filled you, you wouldn't leak under the weight. And now, I am trusting you with something heavy because I've seen that you can handle what others would drop. So stay alert. Watch carefully. The signs are already appearing. Conversations are shifting. Opportunities are aligning. Resources are moving in your direction. Don't hesitate when the door swings open. Don't second-guess the speed. You prayed for me to move. This is me moving. Don't ask for confirmation when you're standing in the answer. Walk through boldly. Your boldness is not arrogance. It's agreement. Agreement with what I've already settled in heaven concerning your name. And your name, beloved, has been spoken over angels. It hath been included in divine strategies. It hath been marked for something far beyond temporary applause or seasonal attention. This is about legacy. This is about fulfilling what I wrote over you before you ever took your first breath. And now, it begins to take form. Not in hiddenness, not in silence, but in undeniable visibility. They will see it. They will hear about it. They will talk about what I did for you, but they won't be able to take credit for it. Because what's coming wasn't built by connections or lifted by manipulation. It was born in the fire of surrender. It was formed in the trenches of prayer. It was carried by grace, watered by tears, guarded by angels, and sealed with my promise. And now, it is ready to manifest. You are not just about to walk in proof. You are about to become the proof. The proof that faith is never wasted. The proof that I do not forget. The proof that obedience always produces harvest. In my time, in my way, for my glory. Even before you arrive, I'm sending your reputation ahead of you. There are people preparing positions, making decisions, unlocking access, not even knowing they're being guided by my hand to favor you. Your name is being whispered in circles you did ask to be part of. Meetings are being held where your face is unknown but your impact is already felt. And the reason they are drawn to you, without even fully understanding why, is because I've placed a divine magnet around your life. It's pulling open gates you didn't knock on and aligning outcomes you didn't chase. You thought you were forgotten, passed by, left in the waiting room. But what you didn't see was me planting your identity in the atmosphere. I was preparing hearts to welcome what you carry. I was softening resistance before you even knew there'd be a path. You've been hidden, not as punishment, but as protection, because where I'm sending you requires precision, not popularity. I've been refining your voice, sharpening your discernment, increasing your resilience, also that when the moment comes, you don't shrink under pressure. You will stand with holy confidence and release what I've embedded inside you. And no, you won't have to campaign for it. You won't need to beg or barter or try to manufacture your moment. What I have for you cannot be stolen, delayed, or diluted. I don't need man's approval to bless you. I don't need a majority vote to lift you. I am the God who made a shepherd boy into a king with just oil and obedience. I'm the same one moving now, taking your name and placing it where no one thought it belonged, simply because you trusted me in private when no one clapped, when no one saw. This is the hour where your life begins to speak for itself. You won't have to convince anyone. The anointing on you will be its own introduction. The way you walk into rooms will change the atmosphere, not because of charisma, but because of covenant. I have made a covenant with you to establish, to defend, to provide, to enlarge. And what I'm doing through you isn't temporary recognition, it's generational transformation. I'm not just lifting you, I'm shifting what comes through you. Bloodlines are being rerouted. Histories are being rewritten. You are the hinge on which many doors will swing. But don't be surprised when unfamiliar faces begin to honor you. That's me, not them. I am touching the hearts of strangers to become deliverers of provision. I am using unexpected vessels to validate the mission I've placed inside you. And even the ones who tried to block you will become instruments of acceleration, not because they changed their hearts, but because I overruled their intentions. What was meant to bury you is becoming the platform I use to reveal you. What was structured to silence you will now become the soundboard that amplifies your voice. Because what I'm doing and you cannot be ignored. The wave has already begun. The ripple is turning into a surge. And while others are still watching the surface, I've already stirred the depths. You are rising, not by accident, but by design. You are stepping into moments that have been scheduled since before your conception. And each step you take from here is not random, it is prophetic. The ground you walk on has been prepared. The people you meet have been appointed. The words you speak have been soaked in fire and truth. Nothing is wasted. Not a second. Not a tear. Not a prayer. And yes, some will be confused by your emergence. They will question your speed. They will try to compare your journey to theirs. But ignore the noise. I didn't anoint you to explain yourself. I anointed you to execute what heaven has released. And the only explanation they'll need is the undeniable evidence that follows you. The fruit won't lie. The shift won't be subtle. And the silence of those who once dismissed you will only confirm that I've made you unignorable. Your season of watching is over. Your hour of release has come. A wind is moving. Your name is on it. You've been holding on to structures that once served you but no longer carry the weight of your calling. That job, the title, that familiar relationship, you thought it was the foundation, but I saw it was becoming a ceiling. I allowed the tremors not to destroy you but to remove what would limit you. I permitted the shaking not as punishment, but to detach you from patterns that dulled your faith. I know how deeply you loved certain chapters, but I also know what you prayed for, and I must rearrange what you're standing on to bring you into what you cried out for in secret. This is why doors close without warning, why support vanished overnight, why comfort turned to confusion. It wasn't sabotage, it was sanctification. I am sanctifying your path by separating you from what was never meant to remain. If I had let it stay, you would have settled. If I had let it grow, it would have trapped you. And if I had answered according to your understanding, you would have missed the blessing I tailored specifically for your destiny. Trust me with the pieces that don't make sense right now. They are being reordered, not wasted. You've asked me why I allowed certain endings to come so violently. And I answer you now, because gentle nudges weren't enough. You were too loyal to what had expired. You were too committed to assignments that had already been completed. So I had to intervene, not out of anger, but out of unstoppable love. I refuse to let you die in places I never called you to live. I won't let your future be buried beneath outdated connections and recycled dreams. You were meant to birth something new, but you kept feeding what should have been buried. Now I'm placing a new strength inside you. A fire that can't be stolen. A clarity that exposes distractions. A discernment that divides truth from temptation. I'm not just rebuilding your life. I'm reformatting your identity. You're not who you were before the storm. A loss reshaped your trust. The disappointment deepened your roots. And the silence taught you how to hear me without noise. What you thought was abandonment was actually an invitation to intimacy. I needed you alone with me, not because you were being punished, but because I had secrets to share that only isolation could reveal. And while others saw chaos, I was scripting clarity. While they counted your setbacks, I was measuring your elevation. And now, in this very hour, I declare that what once looked like collapse will be seen as construction. The ruins are rising. The rubble is becoming revelation. The void is being filled with vision. And no, you're not behind. You're not late. You're not forgotten. You're exactly on schedule for what I've planned. The delay was never denial. It was a divine stall, so I could rebuild you without interference. I know it hurt. I know it didn't make sense. But I also know what's on the other side of this surrender. You'll walk into rooms where others only survive, but you'll bring revival. You'll touch hearts that others overlook, because you know what it feels like to be unseen. You'll carry my presence not as theory but as testimony. Because when everything else was stripped away, you learned I was enough. And now, everything I add will come from that place of purity, not pride. From dependence, not demand. This new chapter will not resemble the former ones. Don't try to copy old blueprints. They will match what I'm doing. Don't wait for validation. Your yes already carries my approval. Don't look back to gauge how far you've come. Look forward to see how much I'm about to unfold. What I'm about to place in your hands will make the previous chapters feel like a whisper. Because this time, you won't be building alone. I will be building with you. I will be the architect and the atmosphere. And no force, no system, no voice can cancel what I've confirmed. So lift your head again. Breathe deep. Let go of what no longer fits, because I am placing garments of glory upon you. The mantle has shifted. The weight has changed. And your hands, once trembling from grief, are now steady with purpose. What I removed was necessary. What I'm releasing is holy. And what's coming next will make the breaking worth it. I disrupted what you depended on, not to leave you empty, but to make room for what is eternal. You were surrounded by clamor disguised as counsel, influence masquerading as insight. Too many voices battled for your attention, claiming to know what was best for you. And in the chaos, my still, sacred voice was being drowned out. I watched as you reached for quick reassurance, scrolling for answers that could never replace the ones I had written into your spirit. So I stepped in, not to punish you, but to protect the intimacy we were losing. I silenced the world around you so I could speak directly into the heart I designed with my own hands. The disconnect you're feeling from others is not rejection, it's refinement. I am realigning you with my voice. I am restoring your inner compass. You are not confused. You are being calibrated. I've stripped away the unnecessary not to isolate you, but to anchor you. Because what I'm about to reveal to you requires a heart undistracted, a mind uncluttered, and a soul unchained from public approval. The assignment I'm placing in your hands isn't for the crowd's consumption. It's for my kingdom's transformation. And you can't build what's holy if you're still shaped by what's hollow. You thought the silence meant I stepped back, but it was a moment I stepped in closer. When the noise stopped, my whisper became undeniable. When the spotlight dimmed, my light became your guide. And when your support system paused, my presence surged. I was never far. I just needed to break the volume of everything else so that my words would resound without distortion. And now that I have your full attention, listen carefully. You are not being overlooked. You are being prepared in the shadows for a release that will illuminate everything. You were looking for signs, confirmations, patterns, and I understand that hunger. But sometimes, I reveal myself not in what I show, but in what I strip away. The loss of connection was the start of communion, the end of one season with the unveiling of sacred strategy, and the absence of applause was the beginning of divine alignment. You were never abandoned. You are being fine-tuned for frequency. Because what comes next will not require popularity. It will require precision. It will demand discernment. It will call for an unshakable awareness of my heartbeat. You've been wondering why the call stopped, why the attention faded, why the energy around you shifted so suddenly. Let me be clear. I orchestrated this shift. I pulled you from the echo chamber so you could hear my original sound. I interrupted the cycle of external validation to awaken the inner voice of conviction. You've been trained too long to please crowds. Now you will be shaped to serve purpose. And in that holy separation, you will rediscover what makes you unmovable, me. I am retraining your spirit to hear me in new frequencies. No more relying on the obvious. No more dependency on signs alone. You will hear me in the quiet flutter of your spirit. In the middle of the night when no one is watching, I will speak. In the sunrise no one pauses to notice, I will confirm. In the pause between one breath and the next, I will instruct. This level of direction is not for everyone. It's for those I'm calling deeper. And I'm calling you. Yes, you. Because I see what I planted in you long before anyone knew your name. Do not mistake stillness for stagnation. You are not stuck. You are stationed. You are not muted. You are being molded. The silence is my sacred classroom. The hush is my divine holding pattern. And when I release you from this chamber of clarity, you will emerge with an authority that no voice of man could have given. You won't need to shout. The weight of my whisper through you will shift atmospheres. You won't need titles. Your obedience will carry anointing. And you won't chase stages. Stages will open simply because my presence rests upon you. So stay here with me. Don't rush this moment. Don't try to force the volume back on. Let the silence finish its work. Let me finish writing what I started in you. Because when I speak again, and I will, it will come with instruction, strategy, and speed. And you will not hesitate. You will know exactly what to do. Because my whisper will no longer be foreign. It will be familiar. And you will walk, not just with knowledge of me, but in synchronization with me. They didn't see the treasure in you, not because it wasn't there, but because they were never meant to handle what's holy. You kept giving them front row seats to a journey they didn't respect, opening doors to hearts that only drained you. I watched you stay loyal to voices that dimmed your light, thinking you were being kind, when in reality, you were being delayed. So I had to draw a line, not out of cruelty, but out of mercy. Because every second they occupied your space, they postponed the revelation of who you truly are becoming. There comes a moment when protection feels like rejection, but it's not. It's reallocation. I moved them, not because you failed, but because you succeeded in growing beyond what they could recognize. Your opinions were anchoring you in an old version of yourself I've already outgrown in you. And if I had allowed their presence to continue, they would have infected your confidence, distorted your identity, and made you question what I've confirmed in private. You are not who you used to be, and I will not allow their limited perception to restrain your divine transition. You've wept over doors that closed, but those doors would have suffocated the oil I'm now pouring out upon you. Every no was a divine route. Every unanswered call was protection in disguise. You were never supposed to remain in those cycles. You were destined to break out, to become unfamiliar to those who only knew your past but never discerned your calling. I disrupted the pattern so your promise could finally emerge. And I need you to understand. I did it swiftly because delay had already cost you too much. Some connections had access to you for far too long. They lingered because you gave them grace beyond their assignment. But I'm the God who knows when enough is enough. So I stepped in and shut it down. I dried up the conversations that were wasting your energy. I blocked the patterns that were feeding your doubt. I disrupted the familiarity that was stunting your growth. Not everyone can journey with you into what's next, and I'm making that separation clear, permanent, and purposeful. Their absence is not your loss. It's your unlocking. You must stop trying to bring into your future what I already released from your life. It's not betrayal, it's elevation. Not everyone who walked with you through the valley is equipped to stand with you on the mountaintop. Some were seasonal scaffolding, useful for a stage, but not meant for the foundation. I'm building something eternal with you, and that requires stability, purity, and alignment. I won't allow distractions disguised as friendships to sabotage the new platform I'm constructing beneath your feet. This next stretch of your life demands that you walk unburdened. No more emotional debts to people who didn't steward your heart. No more watering down your passion to fit into rooms that fear the fire I've placed in you. No more apologizing for being chosen, anointed, and accelerated. I have severed every link that kept you explaining, shrinking, and delaying. This is your emergence season, and in it, I will surround you with those who recognize your weight, honor your walk, and protect your flame. Let this be your release, not just of people but of patterns. Let go of the need to be understood by those I've already removed. Stop rehearsing the past in hopes that it will validate your present. What's ahead is too glorious to be hindered by yesterday's opinions. I am placing you in divine company, voices that echo your purpose, leaders who see your oil, and hearts that speak the same heavenly language as yours. No more translation needed. No more convincing. No more delay. This is the season where you rise not through applause, but through obedience. And obedience sometimes looks like silence, separation, and strange shifts that only make sense in the spirit. Trust me, I'm aligning you with destiny, not popularity. I'm advancing you toward fulfillment, not familiarity. What I'm releasing over your life requires this clean break. So don't mourn the distance. Celebrate the clarity. You are not abandoned. You are being positioned. And in that position, nothing and no one will be able to access what I have reserved only for you. They evaluated you by what they could see, but I marked you by what they could never comprehend. Their assessments came from a surface view, but my intentions were planted deep in your spirit where no one else could reach. While they labeled you according to past patterns, I was speaking identity into your future. They mistook your quiet as weakness, your surrender as defeat, and your stillness as hesitation. But what they couldn't see was that I had you paused on purpose, not because you were behind, but because I was protecting the timing of what would come through you. You've been judged by timelines that never belonged to you, compared to lives that were never written in your scroll, pressured by standards that contradict the pace of my spirit. And I say to you now, release yourself from their words, for I never agree with their analysis. I did not assign their opinion as your truth. What I have spoken in the sacred chambers of your soul outweighs every assumption made in public. What I whispered while you cried in silence carries more authority than all their noise combined. You are not under their verdict. You are under my voice. This world has conditioned you to explain yourself, to prove your process, to showcase your progress. But I am weaning you off that performance. I never required your visibility to validate your worth. What I placed in you is too holy to be paraded for shallow acceptance. They wanted a version of you that made sense to them. But I am birthing something through you that will challenge their logic. You are a divine contradiction to every limit they thought would define you. And the ones who misunderstood you the most were often the loudest. But don't let volume confuse you. My whisper holds the future. Do not lower your spiritual altitude to be understood by minds that are not submitted to me. Do not abandon the clarity I gave you just because others demand evidence before they believe. I called you, not a committee. I chose you, not based on a poll. I confirmed you, not in their presence, but in the wilderness where only obedience mattered. That moment where you said yes in the dark, that was your true coronation. That night you surrendered when no one clapped, that's when I wrote your new name in heaven. And I've never taken it back. Even now, I am reversing every word curse spoken over your path, every limitation pronounced by those who couldn't perceive the assignment on your life. I am nullifying it. Where they said you'll never rise, I say you already have. Where they said you're not qualified, I say you're handpicked. Where they said you missed it, I say you're right on schedule. My decree overrides their definitions. My seal cancels their sentences. And my power is about to showcase what I've been shaping in you all along, a move so divine that it won't require you to argue your place in it. What's coming will be undeniable, not because of its glamour, but because of its purity. The shift I'm bringing will not be built on external approval but on unshakable intimacy. You're not rising because of favor from man. You're rising because of alignment with me. You're not progressing because of applause. You're advancing because of surrender. I'm crowning the hidden ones. I'm elevating the overlooked. I'm breathing upon the vessels that said yes when the platform was still a promise. So don't spend another second replaying what they said. Don't waste another heartbeat grieving over those who didn't believe in you. I never required their affirmation to complete my will through you. You are not behind. You are not less than. You are not invisible. You are being concealed for revelation, not rejection. I am not late, and neither are you. Every piece is falling into position because you trusted me when it made no sense. Because you stayed, I will establish. Because you obeyed, I will overflow. Because you were faithful in silence, I will thunder your name through miracles. This next unveiling will silence every critic, not with argument, but with undeniable evidence of my presence upon your life. What I placed in you cannot be mocked. What I started in you cannot be stopped. And what I have spoken into your depths will now begin to manifest in dimensions no one saw coming. You are not who they labeled. You are who I destined. And nothing they say can overwrite what I have already authored in eternity. You've been focused on what didn't work out, what disappeared without warning, what left you wondering if I was still involved. But I need you to pause and look again through my eyes. While you were grieving the doors that never opened, I was shielding you from rooms that would have devoured your soul. What you called delay was me severing attachments that looked like blessings but hid corruption. I diverted your steps not because you weren't ready, but because they weren't worthy of the version of you I'm raising. I pulled you back not to punish you, but to preserve the part of you that still believes in purity, in truth, in purpose beyond applause. There were conversations you thought you missed, but I was the one who ended them. There were connections you tried to force into your timeline, but I allowed the silence to speak louder than words. I saw every compromise that would have followed if I let them stay. I saw how you would have gradually faded into someone unrecognizable, smiling outwardly while suffocating internally. That's not my design for you. I don't bless you with fragments. I bless you with wholeness. And sometimes, the greatest favor I can give you is to remove what you thought was the answer, only to make space for the truth you dared not imagine. You prayed for protection, and I answered, but not in the way you expected. You asked me to guard your life, and I did, but it meant losing access to things you thought were necessary. I placed you in a hidden lane because visibility would have made you vulnerable to schemes that were too polished for your discernment at that time. I quieted your seasons so you could learn to hear me without interference. I withdrew the noise not to isolate you, but to insulate your anointing. Some delays weren't punishment, they were preservation. Some no's weren't rejection. They were redirection from destruction disguised as opportunity. They don't know what I did behind the scenes. They don't see how I sent angels to block that toxic entanglement just moments before it reached you. They don't understand how I rearranged your schedule to spare you from what looked innocent but was engineered to derail your focus. I altered timings, routed meetings, changed travel paths, not by accident, but by divine calculation. I do not lose control. I don't miss details. I am sovereign over interruptions. And every twist you couldn't understand was the evidence that I was shielding you from something your heart couldn't yet interpret as danger. And I want you to know this, just because I spared you silently doesn't mean I didn't move with power. My greatest miracles are often the ones you don't even know happened. You think your life stayed the same because you didn't see fireworks. But I was performing surgery in the spiritual realm. I was canceling demonic contracts, closing access points the enemy had planned for years, severing generational entanglements that tried to re-enter through back doors. I wasn't just working around you, I was working within you, through you, ahead of you. The threat never reached you because I stood in the way. There's a reason the pressure didn't crush you. There's a reason the trap didn't spring. There's a reason the weight felt heavy but never broke you. It wasn't because the enemy didn't try. It's because I didn't permit him. I am the wall of fire around you. I am the hand that halts what you will never have to face. You don't need to defend what I'm already fighting for. You don't have to beg me to care. I've been invested in your destiny since before your first breath. And if you only knew what I held back to keep your purpose intact, you'd worship me not just for the victories you saw, but for the battles I won without ever waking you. So no, you didn't fail. No, you didn't miss your moment. No, you're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're not unlucky. You are chosen, protected, covered. You are walking through a divine choreography that the world doesn't understand, but heaven celebrates. And as you step forward now, I will begin to reveal glimpses of what I shielded you from. You'll begin to thank me for the no's you once cried over. And when that clarity arrives, you will finally realize I was never punishing you. I was protecting the future version of you who will now rise without regret. There were nights you curled under your blanket, your mind spinning with unspoken fears, and your heart too exhausted to form words. You tried to hold yourself together with silence, telling yourself it wasn't worth bothering me, telling yourself you needed to be strong, that you'd figure it out tomorrow. But I want you to understand something today. Every sigh that escaped your lips was caught by me. Every shaky breath, every clenched fist against your pillow, every moment when you whispered, "I don't know what else to do," I was there. You didn't have to form a prayer. Your pain spoke a language I have never stopped understanding. You didn't fall asleep alone. My presence lingered at the edge of your bed. I was the stillness that wrapped around your aching soul when the world became too loud. I placed my hand on your chest when your heart was racing, not from excitement, but from fear you couldn't name. And when your tears slipped out without permission, I didn't look away. I caught them. I counted them. I carried them. There is no part of your heartbreak that I've ignored, no portion of your pain that I've dismissed. I saw what broke you and stayed, even when you thought I was gone. Some of the deepest healing I've done in your life wasn't visible to you, because it didn't happen in the light of day. It happened in the midnight moments, when your faith flickered but didn't die, when your voice trembled but didn't disappear, when you told yourself, "I just need to get through this night," not knowing I was already preparing peace for the morning. You thought you were surviving alone, but you were never abandoned. I never waited for you to be strong to show up. I arrived in your weakness and built a refuge that couldn't be taken away. Your tears weren't wasted. They weren't a sign of failure. They were evidence that you were still connected to me, even when you didn't feel spiritual, even when your confidence was shattered. Do you know what makes me weep with you? It's not your mistake. It's when you think you have to clean yourself up before approaching me. I'm not offended by your mess. I'm moved by your honesty. If all you can offer me is a tear-soaked pillow, I receive that like 1,000 worship songs. Because that is the moment you drop the performance and let me step in as your father, your comforter, your defender, your healer. You've been told to hold it all together. But what if I told you that breaking is where your deliverance begins? Not because I want you to suffer, but because when you shatter, the walls you built around your heart finally fall, and I can finally reach the parts of you that have been buried under years of survival. Your tears softened the ground for the seeds I've been planting. Your weeping watered the soil for a harvest of strength that will not resemble anything you've known before. What once drained you will now develop you. The same eyes that wept in the dark will soon witness light you didn't think you'd ever see again. I never shamed you for weeping. I sat beside you in it. I matched your broken rhythm with my stillness. And now, I'm bringing you into a season where your pain will be turned into power, not by forgetting what you felt, but by remembering that I never left. You will testify not because everything went perfectly, but because I preserved you through what should have destroyed you. Your scars will be proof that your tears had purpose, and the softness in your heart that others tried to harden. I kept it alive, because that tenderness is sacred to me. that compassion will be your weapon, that vulnerability will be your strength. You cried when no one noticed, but I saw every drop. You broke when they expected strength, but I held the pieces. You endured when it felt unbearable, but I was your unseen anchor. Now watch what I do next. I'm sending joy you didn't chase. I'm releasing peace you didn't earn. I'm unfolding answers you stopped asking for. I'm turning your silent weeping into public restoration. And when others ask, how did you survive that? Your only reply will be, he never let go of me, even when I stopped holding on. There were moments you weren't just quiet. You were silent because everything inside you was screaming. And yet no one around you noticed. You smiled, nodded, kept up appearances, but internally, you were drowning in thoughts that didn't have a voice. Not because you didn't want to speak, but because you didn't know how to explain the chaos. You weren't ignoring me. You were turning away. You simply didn't have the strength to form words. And that's exactly where I stepped in. I didn't wait for your invitation. I didn't knock softly and leave when you didn't answer. I walked straight into the storm of your silence and sat there with you. Even when you could not articulate the weight in your chest or the ache in your soul, I understood what your stillness meant. Your silence wasn't empty, it was sacred. It was the space where I could minister to you without interruption. It was where I held you without needing your permission. You didn't realize it, but while you stared at the ceiling with tears in your eyes, I was there collecting the shattered pieces of your inner world. While you sat motionless, I was doing the rebuilding. Your silence was not wasted time, it was holy ground. Because in that stillness, you finally let go of pretending. The pressure to always be okay, always be strong, always know what to say, it broke under the weight of your stillness. And in that break, I found room to speak in ways you didn't expect. Not through booming declarations, but through gentle presence, through unshakable nearness, through unexplainable peace that surrounded you when everything else was spinning. I want you to know, I'm not just the God who shows up when you're bold. I'm the one who sits in the silence, understanding you better than you understand yourself. You've questioned whether I still heard you, whether I had turned my face, whether I moved on to someone louder, someone stronger, someone more devoted. But what you call silence, I call surrender. When your own voice fell quiet, you finally stopped filling the space with fear, and I could begin filling it with restoration. And now, the silence is shifting. You will begin to hear things again, not the noise of confusion, but the whisper of destiny. Not the echoes of past regrets, but the sound of steps walking you toward your promised place. You're not voiceless, you're being renewed. You're not forgotten, you're being refined. I didn't need you to say a word for me to move. I just needed you to stop resisting long enough for me to take over. The walls you thought were protecting you were actually keeping me out, and when they crumbled in your silence, I came rushing in. I've been closer than your breath. I've been working behind the curtain of your pain, preparing something too beautiful to be announced with noise. That's why the silence lasted so long. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Now the time has come. I'm about to break the silence not with thunder, but with breakthrough. And when it comes, it won't be confusing. You'll recognize it as the very thing you almost gave up on. Your silence birthed something sacred. You thought nothing was happening, but everything was shifting. I was whispering to your future. I was aligning things you never saw coming. And now, what was silent will suddenly speak volumes. You'll walk into rooms where they'll feel the weight of what you carry without you saying a word, because I shaped you in the silence. You are not behind. You are not less. You are not forgotten. You are becoming. And what seemed like delay was the molding of your character, your insight, your discernment, your identity. All forged not in noise, but in quiet surrender. You were not being overlooked. You were being prepared for impact that can't be shaken by applause or crushed by rejection. You'll no longer be defined by how loud you can be. You'll be known by the depth of what I formed in your silence. And when you speak again, your words will carry healing, truth, and revelation, because they will come from a place of divine intimacy. So don't curse the quiet. Don't regret the seasons where you didn't have words. I was not absent. I was moving more than ever. And now, as I bring you forward, you will see that even your silence had a voice in heaven, and I answered it with mercy. You've only seen the attacks that got through. You've only cried over the moments that seemed to slip past your defenses. But what you've never seen are the infinite moments I intercepted what was meant to destroy you before it even got near. There were arrows with your name on them, words, accusations, betrayals, sicknesses, accidents, all designed to crush you before you could ever rise. But I stepped in, unseen, and turned every ambush into a testimony you never even knew you had. You didn't feel the threat because I absorbed the blow. You didn't sense the urgency because I already stood in the gap before the danger could reach your doorway. There were places in your heart left vulnerable, not because you were reckless, but because you were weary. And weariness makes you loosen your grip. Weariness causes the strongest walls to develop, cracks. I saw those places before you even noticed they were weakening. And instead of waiting for you to patch them up, I wrapped my presence around you. I covered your gaps. I stood at the doors of your unspoken fears and told the storm, "You'll go no further." I told the destroyer, "You'll not touch what I've sealed." You didn't realize it, but while you slept, I warred. While you broke, I rebuilt. While you hesitated, I intervened. You are more protected than you've ever known. There were conversations you were not invited into because I didn't want your name to be distorted. There were meetings you never attended because I rerouted the damage before it reached your ears. There were people who walked away not because you weren't enough, but because their presence would have cost you your purpose. You thought you lost a thing. But I was making sure what wasn't sent for your growth didn't anchor itself to your destiny. Even in the silence, I was sweeping your path, clearing the debris before you stepped into rooms meant to define your future. That's why certain plans collapse suddenly, not to discourage you, but to protect you from what you couldn't yet see. And when fear whispered that you were uncovered, abandoned, and forgotten, that was the moment I wrapped you even tighter. I didn't cover you with the temporary shelter of convenience. I covered you with my blood, my authority, my word. No power in hell could overtake what I placed under divine guard. The delay wasn't a sign of neglect. It was a sacred pause so that I could build you a stronghold from within. And while you questioned why the breakthrough hadn't arrived, I was securing you from attacks you couldn't afford to face. What you thought was stillness was actually shielding. Now look again. Look at how many times you walked through fire and didn't burn. How many rooms you entered with a wounded soul but left with peace you couldn't explain. That wasn't coincidence. That was me. Covering, guarding, surrounding you like an unshakable wall. And still now, I haven't stepped back. I didn't leave when the last battle ended. I didn't remove my hand when your tears dried. I'm still here, reinforcing the places you never thought could be healed. I'm still covering the scars you've hidden, the trauma you buried, the shame you never dared to speak aloud. I know every layer of your fragility, and I've built my grace around it like armor. This next season you're stepping into, it won't be filled with the same kind of pain. Because this time, you'll walk knowing that I'm not just ahead of you, I'm behind you, beside you, and surrounding you. This time, the confidence will come from your ability, but from the assurance that you are divinely shielded. They won't understand how you keep moving forward. They won't comprehend why what took others out couldn't even shake you. But I will know. You will know. Because you lived through nights you didn't think you'd survive. You endured storms that were meant to erase you. And here you are, not broken, but fortified. And I want you to hear this now. There is not a single part of you I will leave exposed. Not one moment I will fail to defend. Not one weakness I will let the enemy exploit. You are mine. And because you are mine, you are covered. Fully, eternally, completely. Even in the places you've forgotten to pray about, even in the places you still feel unworthy, I have already stretched my hand. You are safe under my wings, and I will not let go. Before a single word of gossip could grow into a weapon, I dismantled it at its root. Before the jealousy they masked with smiles could morph into sabotage, I stepped in with divine interference. What you never saw is what I shielded you from, not in front of your face, but behind your back, where intentions were hidden and motives were twisted. While you focused on being faithful, there were plans gathering in the dark, conversations crafted to discredit you, actions orchestrated to shame you, schemes designed to drain you of everything you had left. But I caught them. One by one, I shut them down. One by one, I redirected the trap until it collapsed under the weight of its own malice. You were walking into days you thought were ordinary, not knowing that hell had circled dates with your name on them. But those very dates became blank, because I canceled every calendar of calamity set against you. There were voices rehearsing what they would say to bring you down. I silenced them before the words ever reached the air. There were decisions made without you that would have stolen from your peace, but I overturned them before the ink could dry. Not everything I protected you from came with a warning. Some of my greatest interventions were the ones that left no trace, because the enemy never got the chance to leave a mark. You assumed the stillness was uneventful, but it was war behind the veil. It wasn't quiet because nothing was happening. It was quiet because I had already spoken, no more. What could have been a season of devastation turned into a season of unexpected peace, not because the attacks weren't launched, but because I intercepted every single one. When you noticed people walking away suddenly, it wasn't always loss. It was me, removing contamination from your circle. I made sure you would no longer be surrounded by those who only clapped when it benefited them, who only smiled when it hid their envy, who only stayed because your presence offered them something to consume. You don't have to beg for protection when you're walking in purpose. I made a covenant with you long before the first wound ever tried to cut you, and that covenant remains active even in the places you can't see. I'm not just present in the miracles you recognize. I'm fiercely working behind the scenes to guarantee the chaos never even enters the room. That's why, even in moments of deep confusion, the ground beneath you never fully collapsed. Because I was beneath it, holding it together while you wept, while you questioned, while you doubted. Your survival was not luck. It was strategy. My strategy. My sovereignty. My supervision. And now that the enemy knows you're still standing, the attacks have grown more subtle, more psychological, more emotional, more internal. I'm not caught off guard. I'm already addressing what's trying to access your mind before it roots itself in your thoughts. The shame that tries to sneak in through memory, I'm dissolving it. The fear that tries to rise when you're alone, I'm confronting it with my peace. The accusation that tries to twist truth into torment, I'm silencing it with the sound of my promise. You're not fighting alone. You never were. So let this truth settle in your soul. What tried to eliminate you silently has already been defeated privately. And now, I'm preparing to reveal publicly just how covered you truly were. What they meant to use against you will become a platform for your elevation. The lies that were told in whispers will be outshined by the truth I declare over your life. And those who plotted in shadows will have to watch you flourish in the light of my favor. This is not revenge. It is redemption. You don't have to return to their level to prove anything. I'm lifting you above it. Walk boldly now. Walk as one who has been divinely defended. You're not fragile. You're fortified. You're not barely making it. You're thriving under supernatural watch. And though you may still feel the aftershocks of betrayal, the full impact never touched you. Because I stepped in. I shielded you. I routed the outcome. And I'm not done. There are more traps I will stop before you see them, more arrows I will catch before you feel them, more storms I will still before you hear the thunder. You are never exposed when you're under my hand, and you always will be. There were forces in motion, accelerating toward your life with calculated momentum, destruction that had already been set in motion, waiting to collide with your peace, your progress, your very identity. But while you were still in the dark about what was forming, I stepped into the middle of the storm's path and redirected its energy away from you. I did not allow it to crash into your home, your future, your calling. It was coming fast, but I moved faster. I rearranged the ending while they were still scripting the middle. I caused the trajectory of their plans to swerve so sharply that the impact you were meant to feel vanished before you ever knew you were in danger. They thought they had time to plant chaos, time to manipulate outcomes, time to throw the weight of their bitterness against your foundation. But I shattered their hourglass before the first grain could drop. I allowed no opportunity for them to finish what they began, because I determined from the start that they would never be allowed to complete it. I am the interruption they never anticipated. I am the shift they didn't calculate. I am the unseen force that turns assassins into bystanders, schemes into silence, and curses into catalysts. Nothing that was racing against you reached its destination, because I outran it. You don't know how many things were supposed to collapse this week. You don't realize how many messages were meant to destroy your spirit. How many calls were planned that could have broken your momentum. But I broke the signal before it could reach you. I jammed the frequency of their intention, scrambled the alignment of their strategies, and caused their aim to dissolve into confusion. They blamed each other for the failure, but it was me. I intercepted it all. They didn't miss. I made sure their arrows vanished in the air. You didn't dodge it. I dissolved it. I made it disappear without an echo. Some of the no's you've received lately were not rejection. They were protection in disguise. I didn't allow you to enter that room because what awaited you there would have contaminated your calling. I let the door close because the people on the other side were not aligned with your anointing. You thought it was delay, but it was divine redirection. What you felt as disappointment was actually me covering you from agreements that would have altered your destiny. They would have smiled at you, spoken well of you, and drained you dry without ever letting you know they were the reason your strength kept fading. I saw the angle they approached from, and I altered the equation. Their access was denied, and they didn't even realize it was I who denied it. They thought their own failure was the reason it didn't work, but it was my hand blocking the doorway, holding back the wave, silencing the alarm before it even went off. I did it quietly. I didn't expose them. I just removed their power. And now they are baffled, wondering why the old tactics no longer shake you, why the old lies no longer stick to you, why their presence feels hollow to you now. Because I unplugged you from their influence. I untangled your heart from their grip. I didn't just reroute what was meant to harm you. I replaced it with what will accelerate you. I took the space they tried to occupy and filled it with favor. I took the hour they tried to steal and restored it with peace. I took the moment they tried to shatter and rebuilt it with momentum that even they cannot track. You're no longer just surviving surprises. You're thriving in strategies I designed before the war ever began. The battles that were rushing toward you met a rerouting so complete, you didn't even feel the wind they carried. Now walk in the confidence of one who was rescued mid-sentence. Speak with the clarity of someone who never needed to know the full attack to witness the full deliverance. You owe no explanations to those who underestimated what I would do for you. Let your testimony be this: He stepped in before I even knew I needed saving. That's who I am. That's what I do. And I'm not finished yet. There are more storms to divert, more hits to absorb on your behalf, more plots to reverse while you sleep peacefully in the safety of my hand. While your hands were lifted in surrender and your heart stayed soft toward me, there were shadows whispering your name with intentions poisoned by jealousy, manipulation, and hidden rivalry. They spoke not from truth but from distortion, not from love but from competition disguised as concern. They crafted sentences to make you look unstable, unworthy, or unfit, and they were confident no one would ever know. But what they didn't expect was that I was already in the room before the sentence was spoken. I heard every syllable, I weighed every motive. I saw their inner reasoning even when their outward tone remained polished. And I did not stay silent. I didn't need to raise my voice because my authority was already present. I pressed my hand upon the ears of the listener, shifting the weight of their heart away from those lies. I caused their mind to resist what was being presented, even when they couldn't explain why. What should have slandered you only sharpened you. What was meant to stain you actually strengthened the purity of your witness. I didn't just protect your name. I positioned it. I lifted it above their reach. They cannot unwrite what I have authored. They cannot undo what I have sealed. They tried to steal favor through sabotage. They tried to eclipse your light with crafted confusion. But I am the one who governs favor. I am the one who aligns timelines. I am the one who determines elevation, and I do not consult the envious. Their schemes are not included in my blueprint. I have never needed the approval of the crowd to anoint a chosen one. You are not who they said you were. You are who I declared you to be before they ever spoke a word. Your opinions are smoke. My word is fire. And what I set ablaze cannot be silenced. When they rewrote your story in places you were not invited, I sent my presence into the narrative and exposed the holes. I showed them their hypocrisy without even saying your name. I made their words feel hollow. I made their confidence unravel in the presence of my conviction. And still, I allowed no shame to come upon them, because even in their gossip, I still longed for their repentance. But you, my child, you were kept in the light. You were preserved in truth. You were hidden under a covering that their arrows could not pierce. You wondered why certain people grew distant, why some invitation vanished, why coldness crept into spaces that once felt warm. It wasn't because you did anything wrong. It was because I was cleansing your atmosphere. I removed what could not honor your name. I allowed their masks to slide, so you wouldn't keep giving loyalty to those plotting privately. I wanted you to see with new eyes, and now you do. You no longer cry for lost rooms. You praise me for the exits I orchestrated. Your name belongs to me now. I have written it on a place they cannot reach. I have declared it in the throne room where no light can enter. I have wrapped it in light so pure that even those who once misunderstood you are now questioning their own judgments. I am raising your name not for fame, but for impact. And the sound of it will carry freedom, not confusion. Healing, not harm. Grace, not gossip. I'm not just protecting your reputation. I'm resurrecting your purpose. Stay silent. You don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to chase clarity in places already contaminated by agendas. Let your peace speak. Let your fruit speak. Let your consistency speak. And let me speak on your behalf. Because what I say echoes beyond rooms. It writes verdicts. It lifts veils. And it builds legacies that no smear campaign can touch. Trust me with your name, because I'm building a future for it that won't require an explanation, only testimony. Amen.